Have you ever wondered if today's misfortune might be tomorrow's blessing? If a closed door truly signifies an end, or merely a sign that another path, one we'd never considered, is wide open and waiting? The story I am about to tell is a journey to find answers to these very questions, a tale of faith in life's endless and mysterious current. Once upon a time, in a small, peaceful village nestled beside a majestic mountainside, lived an old man named Silas. Old Silas lived a simple life, almost impoverished in material terms. His greatest possession was not gold or jewels, but an extraordinarily beautiful, pure white horse. It had a coat as white as fresh snow, hooves as sturdy as rock, and intelligent, gentle eyes. Old Silas named it Silvermane and regarded it not merely as an animal, but as a friend, an indispensable member of his small family. Silvermane's beauty was renowned throughout the region, and many wealthy merchants sought out Old Silas's humble straw hut, carrying heavy bags of gold to inquire about buying the horse. They promised him a prosperous life, enough for him to live without worry until his dying day. But each time, Old Silas would simply smile kindly, stroke Silvermane's head, and gently refuse. He would say, "To you, it might be a commodity, an adornment for wealth. But to me, it is a soulmate. Friendship and family cannot be bought or sold." The villagers, seeing this, would whisper and gossip. Some thought the old man was senile, others called him foolish for missing a chance to change his life. They could not comprehend the deep bond between a poor old man and his precious horse. Then one morning, tragedy struck. Old Silas went to the stable as usual, but found only an empty wooden door and a broken rope. Silvermane was gone. The news spread like wildfire. The entire village flocked to Old Silas's house, everyone with expressions of concern and pity. They shook their heads and clicked their tongues. "What bad luck. We told him so. If only he had sold it, he would have a fortune now, instead of losing everything like this." They offered words of comfort, but their voices held a hidden satisfaction, as if his misfortune had proven their wisdom. But strangely, amidst these laments and regrets, Old Silas maintained an unusual serenity. He gazed into the empty space where Silvermane once stood, his deep eyes unruffled, and slowly said to the crowd, "You say this is bad luck. I thank you for your kindness, but who knows? Life is a river, and we are but leaves floating upon it. Who knows where the next bend will take us? Perhaps this is bad, but perhaps not." The villagers, hearing this, became even more convinced that the old man was so grief-stricken he had become senile. They left, abandoning him to his solitude and loss. Weeks passed. The sadness gradually subsided, giving way to the routines of daily life. And then, one brilliant sunset, as the sun was slowly disappearing behind the mountaintop, the villagers suddenly heard the rapid thud of hooves from afar. The sound grew louder and louder, like thunder rumbling through the valley. Everyone rushed out into the street, and they couldn't believe their eyes. Leading the herd was Silvermane, more majestic and magnificent than ever. And following behind it were 3 other wild horses, large, strong, with manes flowing in the wind. It turned out Silvermane hadn't been stolen. It had run deep into the forest and used its imposing presence to lead an entire herd of wild horses back. This time, the entire village gasped in astonishment. They surrounded Old Silas, their words now completely changed. "What a miracle! Old Silas, you truly are blessed. Not only did you lose nothing, but you gained 3 more precious horses. Heaven truly favors the virtuous." Admiration and envy were evident on every face. But once again, Old Silas maintained his composure. He smiled, his eyes as clear as an autumn lake, and said, "You say this is good luck. I thank you for your well wishes. But who knows? The river is still flowing. Perhaps this is good, but perhaps not." Matthew, Old Silas's only son, was a strong, filial, and courageous young man. Seeing his father had acquired 3 wild horses, he was determined to train them to help with farm work. He chose the lead stallion, the most robust and untamed of the animals. Day after day, Matthew patiently familiarized himself with and tamed the horse. But the wild nature of the animal was not easily subdued. During one training session, the horse suddenly bucked violently, throwing Matthew to the ground. A dry crack echoed, followed by the young man's cry of pain. He had broken his leg. Calamity once again struck the small family. The villagers gathered again, this time with words full of blame and superstition. "There, you see, what heaven gives, earth takes away." That good fortune turned out to bring disaster. What an ill omen. They looked at Matthew lying in bed, his face contorted with pain, and at Old Silas with eyes that were both pitying and judgmental. They believed fate had played a trick on him, granting him a gift only to snatch away something even more precious. Amidst a father's pain, Old Silas still held firm to his belief. He sat beside his son, holding his hand tightly, and said to his neighbors in a warm but weighty voice, "This pain is real, but do not be so quick to call it a disaster. Sometimes the path to good things is full of thorns and pain. The river sometimes has to flow through treacherous rapids before it reaches the great sea." Not long after, grim news arrived from the capital. War had broken out. The imperial court issued a general mobilization order. All able-bodied young men in the village, without exception, had to enlist and go to war. Soldiers in iron armor went from house to house, calling out names. The wails of mothers and wives echoed mournfully throughout the village. The young men who were laughing yesterday now had to don military uniforms, their faces hardened by anxiety and fear. They knew that, leaving this time, few would return whole. When the soldiers arrived at Old Silas's house, they found Matthew lying in bed with his leg in a white cast. The commanding officer looked at him, shook his head, and then wrote in his ledger, "Disabled, exempt from military service," and they left, leaving an unusual silence in the house. The entire village was stunned. All the families whose sons had gone to war looked towards Old Silas's house, but this time, in their eyes, there was no longer judgment or pity, but a profound understanding, a sincere reverence. They realized that what had seemed like the ultimate misfortune, Matthew's fall from the horse, was precisely what had saved his life, keeping him safe beside his aging father. The story of Old Silas and his horse Silvermane became a priceless lesson passed down through generations. It reminds us that life is a complex symphony, woven from highs and lows, joys and sorrows, blessings and misfortunes. We, with our limited vision, often only see a small part of the complete picture. We are quick to label every event as good or bad, without realizing that they are merely links in an endless chain of cause and effect. So, my friend, the next time you face a difficulty, a loss, or a setback, do not despair too quickly. Take a deep breath and remember Old Silas's serenity. Ask yourself, who knows? What you perceive as today's curse may very well become tomorrow's blessing. The wound that pains you now might, unbeknownst to you, be silently protecting you from a much greater danger. Do not try to fight the current, nor be overly joyful when things go smoothly. Learn to accept, observe, and trust in your own journey. Trust in the flow of life, because sometimes the most painful scar is precisely the strongest shield protecting you.